Hi everyone, I'd like to share with you today an exercise from Philippe Bernold's book, the first book called La Technique d'Embouchure, the technique of the embouchure. And this is from chapter 1, Vocalises. So I really love this exercise for sound, for air use, and for phrasing. There are a couple of guidelines that he's written down before you start playing these. So he writes, these are simple and musical exercises employing relatively small intervals which permit the flutist to commence their daily practice with ease. So it's really great at the beginning of your practice. There are some things that we want to note for this. So we're always going to play this exercise forte, expanding up in the higher register. So we do not want to try to control the higher register and get it really soft at the top. Sometimes when we grow up as young flutists, we are taught, okay, we have to play the upper register soft. And then sometimes we start pinching up there, which is what happens pretty often after years of flute practice. That's the way we think. And then, of course, we want to be able to play soft in the upper register, but there's a way to do it, and we want to kind of start from a fundamental openness and generosity of the sound, and then work on refining, like tapering and being able to play soft from there. So he writes, don't forget that the high notes should sound louder than the low notes. Follow the natural dynamics in order to avoid tension. So we're allowing the flute, allowing the phrase, the line to kind of blossom as it goes up. It says to keep the throat nice and open, regardless of the register, give more air in the higher register, and uncover the embouchure if you have difficulties with it. Sometimes people start covering when they're going up, and that also contributes to the sense of compression in the sound. Think about your inhalation. So the breath is it's what generates the sound, right? It's where everything starts for us wind players. Also keep in mind the intonation, and then this is really important, make sure that you're really paying attention to the legato between the notes. So we will do number 1, but I think there are 20 something exercises for variety. They all serve a similar purpose, but they have varying different intervals and arpeggios and such. We want to play all of these in one breath, so not too slow. And I like to repeat these a second time, as with most tone exercises, because we want to give it another go and see if we can make it better, right? And then in between the notes, we want to make sure we're really gluing the notes together with air. So air between the notes, right? In music, we see little black dots and we think, okay, here's a note, here's a note, here's a note. But actually, music is, if we actually wrote it out the way we hear it, everything should be connected, right? So in between each note, making sure I'm supporting through, and the note is alive the whole time. So we want to avoid because then we're not training our air, right? That it doesn't really sound like a musical line. So this is about incorporating musicality as a fundamental part of your tone practice. So oftentimes when students start on this, they will start well and then start pinching up into the high register to try to control it. But we don't want that, right? We want it to be louder up top. There's actually a hairpin written in. Sometimes that means that you're compressing in the lips, the opening of the lips, the aperture, right? It might be a little bit too vertically narrow, right? Sometimes we need to drop the jaw and open up the aperture. Sometimes we need some more space in the mouth. I also see sometimes people just start covering the embouchure hole. Right, so there has to be space in order for the sound to exist. We don't want the opening of the lips to be too close to the edge of the tone hole, because then there's no place for it to resonate. So you want to watch out for that. So basically you are paying attention to, of course, the sound quality. You want to pay attention to the musical line. You want to pay attention to the legato, and making sure that it sounds really generous and easy, going up into the high register, and then paying attention to the intonation on the way down. And that goes all the way up to B. Most of these exercises traverse, they start on each of the chromatic notes. That's number one. Number two is great too. There's a bunch that are really nice and have some varying shapes. But the idea is everything on one continuous breath of air. And you should feel like it's kind of a wave of air, just because sometimes we get caught up a little bit in the notes, a little bit when we're playing music, we're thinking about every discrete little rhythm, and it's easy to forget that everything is it's like it's being sung, right? We want long phrases. We want to be clear where the peaks of phrases are, and part of the fundamental the fundamentals of flute playing is being able to play a beautiful line that just kind of like blossoms and has a beginning, and then has like a peak, and then has an end, right? So these exercises are really great for that. Some of the later ones have some more jumping intervals that are really useful to work on as well. There are also some that have really interesting harmonic changes in which you can work on changing color. So for example, number 8. And then I notice right now, actually I'm not taking very good breaths, so, and I'm just starting to lean forward a little bit. So making sure, since you have time and space in this exercise, it kind of feels kind of like a meditation almost. Then you can really pay attention to your body, right, and your breathing. And Bernold says in this exercise, you can do vibrato if you would like, Personally, I love doing it without vibrato because I can just kind of strip away all of the details, all of the things that are distracting me, and I'm just thinking of that airstream um, going all the way through the notes, gluing all the notes together, and getting as legato of a line as I can, because that is the very most basic part of playing music, is to play a simple line beautifully with beautiful legato, like you're a singer, right? Vocalises, right? I like to think of these as almost like we are singers. And if you listen to singers, they sing so with so much attention to the space in between the notes. So that's what I like to think about for this exercise.